Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Francesco. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. And I take this opportunity again to welcome all people that are joining us, all the entrepreneurs, all the alumni, and all the prospective alumni of E4Impact Foundation. I take the opportunity to welcome you all. Uh, Again, we are thrilled to have you to join us today for our webinar, which is entitled From Zero to One, the path to program product innovation, I beg your pardon. And this session is specifically designed to guide you, the entrepreneurs, through a transformative journey of taking a product from the concept to the market, and this is what we will be getting into in a very short while with our guest speaker today. Now, as we all know, as entrepreneurs, we know that innovation is the lifeblood of any successful business, and especially in today's fast pace that we live in, technology driven world. It even becomes more important. And in this webinar, we will explore the critical steps and strategies involving product innovation, from the ideation to the execution. And we have no person better to take us through this session today. And again, I thank you very much. So just a little bit now, we are going to run this session in a very interactive manner today. I know that many of you cannot speak, but we are going to make other means of interacting with each other. So we are going to have throughout the webinar, we are going to have live polls. So you will see some polls that are popping up on your screen with some questions. We'll be conducting live poll to gather your thoughts and experience, and this, I think, will help our speaker also to tailor the discussion, to always phrase the discussion to your interest and need. And before I forget, I know that many of you have already also sent us some questions, preliminary questions to Dr. Francesco, and I know that he had a look at that and will be also briefly, entertaining those questions as the session go on. And then finally, you notice that we also have a Q&A function, which I encourage you to drop me questions or any questions to the speaker in there anytime, and I will be on standby. I'll be looking at that, and I'll be bringing it to the attention of Dr. Francesco. So again, thank you very much. Thank you. I see more and more are still joining us, and officially, I think we can start the session now. Well, before I give more information, or before I introduce our speaker of the day, I will just take a very brief moment, if I may, to share with you. I know many of you already know about the foundation. Many of our alumni are joining us, but for the newcomers that are here, I would love to take this opportunity to briefly share with you what we are about at E4Impact and what we do as a foundation. So I will share my screen, and then I will proceed from there. And I hope you can see my screen very well. Just put into a presentation mode so that we are able to see very well. Okay. All right. So, like I said, we are E4Impact, and Very well. We do not teach entrepreneurship. What we rather do is we train entrepreneurs, and many of you that are joining us today can testify to that, as many of you are alumni of the program, and new faces also joining us. We welcome you. Well, a little bit background about the foundation is of it's a spin-off of the Catholic University, but the activities of the foundation initially started in 2005 when through the Altis, the business school of the E4Impact, the business school of the Catholic University of Milan, we started bringing in African entrepreneurs to do a master's, MBA, business administration master's here in Italy from 2005. But what we notice is that, well, it is unrealistic to us entrepreneurs that are running businesses in their home countries to leave their business for almost a year and come to Italy and study. It was something that we realized at the very beginning, and in 5 years later, what we decided to do is to take the program to the entrepreneurs in Africa. So instead of having the entrepreneurs over leaving their businesses, we take the program to them, and we started doing this from 2010, where we hosted the first global MBA in impact entrepreneurship with our very first partner, the Tangaza University College, which is based in Nairobi, Kenya. And in 2015, thanks to all of those big companies, big Italian companies that you see here, the E4Impact officially became a foundation and was able to spread across and offer the program to many more other countries in Africa. So our mission as the foundation is threefold. First, which is of our goal is, of course, to train and coach a new generation of impact entrepreneurs in Africa. And second is also, of course, to support partner universities, because the program is run in partnership with local universities. So we support these universities to also become the leading voices for impact entrepreneur in their countries. The third folded aspect is that we develop partnership and market relation between the entrepreneurs companies that we have trained and accelerated through the program with Italian companies and European and other Pan-African level as well. Of course, our three principles as well, which is well blended into our mission, is that we do with what we have, and we ensure that the program or our trainings are of high quality and affordable cost. And the most important of all is that not losing the network and the relationships that you create through the acceleration program that we run. Well, this is just a picture of where the program is running right now. As you can see, we are officially in 17 countries at the moment where the program is successfully running. And I welcome all the newcomers that are joining us today to visit our website at www.e4impact.org to learn all about the program, more information about the program, our partner universities that are hosting the program in your respective countries, and the contact details of all the program directors, so that you'll be able to get in contact with them, have a visit to their campuses, and understand how the program runs there, and if you'll be able to join, or if you are wanting to accelerate your business, I recommend that you get in touch with all of those program directors in your country and arrange a call with them. They will be very happy to speak with you to share more information about our program as well. Well, I mean, the program is it's a very also a flexible program in the sense that you have a total of 36 days contact learning, and others are divided into what we call distance learning and practicals with business coaches, business advisors, and dedicated business services that are also offered throughout the program. So I welcome you to visit our website and learn more and have more details about the program in your respective countries. Well, like I said, this program is not your traditional program. It's only 36 days in-person contact. This program also comes with a dedicated coaching and mentoring. It's an action-orientated program in the sense that we have a mix of academics and industry professionals that deliver training, sit with you, go through your business model with you, try to develop your business model with you, taking into consideration the challenges that every entrepreneur or your business specifically face as well. This program also has what we call the B2B platform, the Pan-African B2B platform, to allow for anyone, any entrepreneur that is doing the program to be able to connect with other entrepreneurs across all the 17 countries that the program ran at the Pan-African level, and also make connection with European entrepreneurs, investors, like-minded business owners across the globe for partnership, or for, in many cases, joint ventures, which have come a lot out of this program as well. While the MBA is the main program, you could see that we also have a lot of other sub-programs that are generated through the MBA program. You see, we have short courses. We also have our entrepreneurship center incubation hubs in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in Uganda, and we also do a lot of multilateral projects for developing impact entrepreneurs through various value chains and sectors within the countries that we operate in. And here it's just, this is the entrepreneurship center that in partnership with the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation, we are able to set up one of our biggest incubator and acceleration hub in Nairobi. For those that are joining us from Kenya, I invite you to visit our center and to interact with our colleagues. There is a lot of business services and a lot of other programs that will be of value to your businesses as well. And just to share a little bit of impact of the program with you, you see that we have to date have run about 75 plus MBA editions in the 17 countries that I showed you, and through those we have trained almost 1,900 plus entrepreneurs, and we have also train approximately 4,300 through the short programs and multilateral projects that I was discussing with you not so long ago. And the positive news here for us is 33% of our entrepreneurs are women, and we take this very seriously because it is one of our goals to bridge the gender gap when it comes to entrepreneurship in Africa. I can also tell you that about 6 jobs was created per entrepreneur, average of 6 jobs per entrepreneur that have enrolled in the program or that have concluded the program. 41% of this of our alumni were able to access financing, while 57% of new entrepreneurs started a business. So those that started the program with just business ideas, the ratio shows that 57% of those walking into the program with just business ideas were able to start a program at the end, while 98% of those that existing businesses that joined the program recorded a 98% of increase in turnover through the program. So this shows you how practical the program is. It's like I said, it's a mix of academic and acceleration process. So there is a lot of business services that are included in the program through the lifespan of the program, which are geared towards supporting your business as well. So without having to take any time from our speaker, I will stop here for now, and I'll be very honored to introduce to you our speaker for today, Dr. Francesco Dellisanti, specializing in accelerating growth in the B2B sector, with a particular focus on software and analytics. Dr. Dellisanti has extensive experience across both industry and consulting. He has played a very pivotal role in the success of leading companies such as Thomson Reuters and Deloitte and others, and his global leadership role as an expert in this subject has driven a business strategy, product innovation, and organizational transformation for many entrepreneurs and many businesses in the field. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Francesco. Hello, Mr. Francesco. Now I stop sharing my screen, and I welcome you, and I thank you very much for making the time to join us today. And please, I leave the floor over to you to share a few words about yourself, and please kindly take it over from there. Thank you very much. I think you're muted. Yes, here we
go. All right, thank you, Xavier, for this great introduction and the overview that you provided. Let me just share my screen. I have a bit of a presentation, so let's see. Manage. Share. And you guys will see the slide, the deck?
Yes, we can see your slide deck.
Perfect. And I'll ask Xavier or others on the call to just monitor a bit the chat, because we'd like this to be an interactive session, right? We don't want this to be a boring lecture. We don't have the time. Promise we won't be like that. Nor I don't think I'm in a position to do a lecture with such an expert audience of actual entrepreneurs who are out there really bringing innovation to the market, which I think is very exciting. So please just keep an eye on the chat. Any questions that comes up. We got a little bit of time for Q&As at the end as well. We want to keep it interactive. So good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. And as I said, this is a great crowd to have this kind of conversation. You guys are innovating out there from various regions, various countries in Africa, which is a continent that I don't know as well. My experience is more in Europe. I'm based in London. I'm from Italy originally. I've worked in the US. I've done work with APAC as well. Africa a little less. So I'm really keen to hear from you how the themes that we'll discuss today really apply to the reality of your markets, because each market is different, of course. Before I even introduce myself, I want to start with a statistic that we often forget. 9 out of 10 new products i.e. product releases, fail. 9 out of 10. So let that sink in for a second, right? So that means that most ideas really never make it to the finish line, right? And they fade somewhere between the start, the excitement of the discovery, and then really the reality of execution. So if you think about it, it's such a waste. Think about the money, the hours that went into those products that never made it. Some of them were probably great products that would have maybe changed the game in some of the industries. So why is it that certain ideas work and hit, and then some others actually flop? You know, why is that? And the answer is in how well we innovate. And there's a webinar poll that is coming up, but that's not for now. Just wait a second, don't vote as yet. I'll tell you when that needs to come up. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. Before we do that, though, let me just very briefly introduce myself, although Xavier has just done it, so I'll be very quick. You know, I spent really most of my career helping companies in academia innovate, mostly through B2B software and analytics. I led corporate strategy and transformation at Thomson Reuters, which then became Clarivate. It's a large organization in that space, data and analytics and software, workflow software. And I also worked in product roles, developing new solutions from the ground up, which really grounded my, I guess, strategic approach into the reality of things. And that really hit me, right, when it comes to having to deal with the operations of building a product, work with the engineers, the content specialists, the experts in the market, and then the go-to-market teams as well. I have a background in strategy consulting at Deloitte, so that's more experience that I bring to the table from that standpoint. So today we'll dig into some of the key principles of product innovation. Essentially, it's how to turn ideas into products that matter. And I will, of course, draw on, you know, whatever I've learned in my experiences, and then also on what some of the leading scholars, you know, either professors, but also entrepreneurs who've done it successfully over and over again, right? Folks behind large companies like PayPal, Amazon, IBM, and more. So I won't mention them all. You know, I'm very happy towards the end, or, you know, after this, to share some helpful readings, content, you know, both literature up there and some of the, you know, the major books that have been published on the topic. Let's keep it interactive, as I said, and let me move on to the next slide. So, does product innovation always matter? Xavier said it at the beginning, right? So it's super important. It sets your business apart from competitors, keeps customers engaged, and, you know, it allows you to be very adaptive. The markets keep changing. If you don't innovate, you fall behind very quickly, and it benefits society. You know, there's a lot of examples of that even in Africa, of building jobs and also helping connect underserved populations to important markets. So it's for the benefits of society as well. I got a question for you, and here the poll can come up. I'm curious to hear from you. Which products, in your mind, tend to perform the least well based on their level of innovation? You know, do you think those are the highly innovative products, medium innovative products, or low innovative products? If you can put the poll up, I'll give you 10 seconds to cast your vote, and then we'll see what we get. So the performs the least well in the market, the highly innovative, the moderately medium innovative, or the not so innovative, like low innovation products. And I think it's Jessica probably managing the poll and keeping an eye on the chat. So I probably need to vote myself. Okay, I'm gonna vote the right one.
No, I don't think I don't think you have the prerogative to vote.
I just want to help the group. Okay, let's see what we got. It's a pretty easy one. All right, so we got 23% the highly innovative products, 23% the medium, and then 55 the low innovative product. So if you answered B, you are right. So 23%, a quarter of the room got it right? And of course, you know, this is just an average, but there's literature out there that found that out. It's actually, there's a bit of a consensus. It might be surprising, right? You would guess that the low innovative products, as you know, 50% of us, you know, said would perform the worst. It's actually the ones that get caught in the middle, right? They're not bold enough to stand out, but they're still expensive because you are innovative, you're throwing money at them, and risky, and they're kind of new to customers that, you know, they may find it difficult to resonate and not good enough or new enough to making that extra effort to embrace, you know, some of the changes. So the relationship between innovation and market success isn't a straight line, right? It's more of a U shape. That's interesting. So you got to innovate well. It's not just throwing innovation, it is going to be magically good for your business, right? Or for your customers. Let me close this. And move to the next slide. Yeah, there you go. B is the right answer. Okay, but what is product innovation anyway? I think some of the questions that I got were around, you know, help them define it. You know, are we talking about the disruptive one, the incremental one? You know, there's three types, broadly speaking. There's four, probably five, many, but to simplify, 70% of the innovation from a product standpoint tend to be incremental, like gradual, continuous improvements on existing products and services. 20% is so-called sustaining innovation, sustains existing customers and markets, but with important changes, right, within the core business. And then a minority is the game-changing innovation that is really entirely new business models or solutions that have the potential to reshape industries. Now, the title of this webinar is From Zero to One. This is borrowed by Peter Thiel. Some of you may know him. He's the founder of PayPal and Palantir. He's, you know, buddy with Elon Musk, you know, as one of the main voices in Silicon Valley globally. And in his mind, innovation really is about the 10%, right? And that's what he's been doing over and over again, also as an investor. So in my mind, and for this, I think, conversation, I think we are including the 20% as well. When it comes to the 70% incremental innovation, I think the question is whether that is necessarily, it's, most of the times it's necessary and it's beneficial as well. The question is whether it falls within that B type upfront, right? Does it get stuck in the moderate innovation trap, which is not the successful type of innovation that we want? So that's a question for us. Incremental is fine, but it has to be the right incremental innovation. And the focus is more on the 20 and 10%. Let's try to aim for that, right? And open and think big and open our minds. I want to ground our conversation into the path to great products. That actually is the title of the webinar as well. There's kind of 7 steps that I laid out here. You know, it could be less, it could be more, but broadly speaking, you want to frame the problem that you're trying to solve. You want to develop and validate your ideas, right, by understanding the customer needs and testing hypotheses. You want to craft your story, right, compelling value proposition, prototype and test, then build a minimum viable product that you can actually start selling, maybe with a pilot. And then when you're good, you got all of the feedbacks, positive or enough, then you launch your product and then you start to try and scale over time. And in doing this, you keep iterating with your customers, in particular with the market, but also internally. Yeah. So that's the path to great products. And I'm gonna go now through each of these steps and share really some provoking thoughts, right? Now, this is not an exhaustive conversation, it's more provoking thoughts and maybe some tools and frameworks that I found helpful in my experience and, you know, learning about what worked in some of the industries out there. Just pausing here for Xavier or anyone, Jessica or others, you know, if there's any, you know, any question, just, you know, just let me know.
All right. At the moment, we don't have any questions at the moment, but I encourage you all to leave some, if you have any thoughts, any remarks at all, kindly make use of the Q&A session. As Francesco have said, we will dedicate a little bit of time at the end of the session to to go in depth into those questions and at real time. I know you've already submitted some questions and along the presentation, along the webinar. I'm very confident that Francesco will type into some of those questions. But if you have any questions, any remarks, please use the Q&A session function at the bottom, and I'll keep an eye on that. The team and I will keep an eye on that and bring it to the attention of Francesco. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Xavier. And I think I've incorporated some of those questions in the presentation, but feel free to, don't be shy, just put them again in the chat if you like. So, by the way, I'd be curious to know, right? And maybe we'll leave it for the Q&A session at the end, but you know, when you're developing your products, and you guys are coming from so many different sectors, I've seen some of the numbers. It's an impressive group of people. Not everyone showed up in that long list. I think we had 200 plus, but it's agri-tech, it's fintech, it's edu-tech, there's some telehealth, you know, some of the really emerging markets, right? So when you're developing products, do you follow a similar journey? Are you skipping any step? And are you finding it challenging, you know, to actually go through some of these steps in particular? And maybe that's the reason why you're skipping it, right? And what's the consequence of this? So just think about these things, try to bring some of these insights home and then react to them based on your own experience. Let's start with number one. So frame the problem, right? So here's something that we don't hear often enough, right? Products don't matter until the problem they solve matters, right? So it sounds simple, but you know, it's incredible how often we get that backward. So we kind of fall in love with the product idea, you know, the beautiful features, the design, whatever it is, and we don't actually ask ourselves, does it actually help anyone, right? Does anyone need this? So problems worth solving lead to solutions worth building, right? So start with the right problem. That would be the number one advice there. The way to do it is, you know, you start finding a problem that it's not being solved or it's being solved poorly, and you target a specific customer segment and find what that is. This is true whether you are building the latest AI application or, you know, new type of shoe. It really doesn't matter. It's the same logic. And if you can, sail to the blue ocean. And I don't know if you're familiar with this concept, but there's a strategy which talks about really the blue ocean and the red ocean. What is the difference? The red ocean is the very competitive crowded market, or does the belong to competition. It's a very, you know, crude image, if you will. And at my previous company at Clarivate, we would have a roadmap for our portfolio solution that would actually be visualized over a line where, you know, there's the blue and the red, literally color coded, the blue and the red. And we would try to have, and I would own that roadmap. I was in a strategy function at that point. And we would try to have a healthy balance between initiatives across both colors, if you will, so that you support your current products in more established markets. You don't drop the ball unless you have to. Sometimes it's fine. You prioritize, right? It's important. You got to do it sometimes. But also you are going into the new markets as well. Some of the sectors you're playing in have got plenty of blue ocean. And so I'm sure you've got good examples yourself. Maybe one that is worth calling out, which is an African example by a Chinese company, Transient, right, in the mobile phones market in Africa. It wasn't a new market, but it managed very quickly to establish themselves in a dominant position by realizing that the competitors were missing the point. Maybe it's not an entirely new market, but it's one where there's unmet needs, right? And so the likes of Samsung and Apple weren't really providing something that was tailored enough to the needs, to the local needs of the continent, right? So they came up with cheaper phones with multiple a SIM slot for calls between networks, whatever it is, but it was radically different. So for this step in particular, my question to you would be, what problem are you solving? And is it a problem that people deeply care about? And if not, think about twice. Don't waste your efforts. And in terms of the tools, you see, I'm going to try to keep this, like for each of the steps, I'm going to try to kind of pose a thought-provoking question, maybe a couple of tools that might help, right? So market and customer analysis will help you find the right problem. Blue and red ocean is a helpful tool, so something to keep in mind. The next one we said is develop and validate your idea, right? So my question there would be for you, what's better in your mind? Is it, actually, let me ask you this question. You can type it in the chat, right? We don't have a poll here, but I want to hear from the chat. What do you think is better? A one genius idea or 100 so-and-so ideas? One genius idea or 100 so-and-so ideas? I'm going to give you 15 seconds. Come up with your best guess.
Great. And again, the Q&A function is there for all questions that you like. Well, at this time, the answer to to the question, but we have one question here for now, which I think I will bring to your attention towards the Q&A session. But the function is open, colleagues. So if you see many ideas at first, then screening through. That is coming from Bengo. I beg your pardon.
Yep, I agree. In the interest of time, I agree. I think that's a good point, right? You gotta start broad. You explore many paths, right? It's about finding gold. You gotta explore many paths, and then very quickly you generate many hypotheses, many ideas, and then you validate relentlessly, and you kind of cut them down, right? For every problem, you should have at least 3 good ideas, right? The very minimum. But the more you generate, the better it is, right? And there's many ways to do it, whether it's brainstorming or sketching or using storyboarding. There's a lot of startuppers out there just putting post-its on the wall. I've done sessions myself with some of the startups that I work with, and it can be very creative. My personal advice is creative is fine. I'm also a very analytical person, and I believe strategy is creative plus analytical. So find ways to bring the analytical piece as well. The one issue with brainstorming is you don't really know how you come up with an idea, and it's therefore hard to validate it, right? And so if I switch to the next slide, some other tools that you might want to think about is pyramid principle, happy line, right? We don't have time to go into the depth of it, right? If you Google it, you'll find it very quickly. What would need to be true to solve the problem we target? What if, right? That's the pyramid principle. Great way to trigger ideas. The happy line asks, how well is an industry or us as a company meeting the customer needs, right? You kind of lay out what are the needs of the customers, how well an industry or a competitor or us are responding to those customers. And the bigger is the gap, the bigger is the opportunity. Aim for those industries or those customer segments where the gap is big, the opportunity is there. If you're below the happy line, there's an opportunity, or the market is, or competitors are, then go for the opportunity. So my thought-provoking question to you is, how many ideas are you willing to throw away to find the one that will change the game? Yeah. All right. Craft your story. That's the third step, right? We got 7 and we got a little bit of time. I think we're broadly in time. I'll try to speed up a bit. So if your narrative doesn't captivate the audience, the product won't either. So what you need is a clear solution statement, right? The so what. It's also called unique value proposition, and a product strategy. Why should people care? And what is your game plan, right? So this is before you commit any resource. At this point, we haven't spent a dime. other than salaries of people that are thinking about these things, right? And it's important that you keep testing the narrative with the target customer. So don't just do that in a room with your team or with your peers. Go out and start to talk with people. Does this story resonate with them, right? The chances are, if the story doesn't sell, the product won't sell, right? In my experience, I made a mistake, right? I started to engage with customers a little later in the process when you get to product market fit. And it's actually helpful to do it at an idea market stage already, right? Early on in the process. It gives you a lot of insights. My question to you then is, what's your story? Simple. And are you being heard above the noise? There's a lot of noise. Even in uncontested market, when you're pitching to investors in particular, they hear a lot of stories. What's your story? I know E4Impact has got a whole module and courses that touch upon this. It's important, not just for the pitch, but also early in the product development process. Press release first is a helpful way to do it. This is something that we did, in the product organization. I did personally for my own. I launched a digital health intelligence platform, and I did this. Amazon does it, right? I think they started off. You kind of fast forward. You're releasing your product. What would you tell the market, and why? And does that stick? It's helpful. Try it. It's fun. Then number 4, and it's about prototyping and testing. Let me just pause here for a second, because now we're going into starting to develop things, right? So just pausing there for a moment. I don't think I see many Q&A there, but Xavier or anybody, just let me know if there's anything there.
Yeah, nothing at the moment. At the moment, nothing. But if I can break the ice. I mean, we know many entrepreneurs are wondering now with the development of emerging of these new technologies, AI, blockchain, etc. I suppose many entrepreneurs will be asking, how can they leverage on these emerging technologies specifically to create innovative products, or rather disruptive products that can address unmet needs of their sectors. I suppose this is, while you were speaking, this is something that came to my mind now, that how can entrepreneurs, specifically small medium enterprises, can leverage on these emerging technologies to create such disruptive and innovative products in their sectors. So I will break the ice with that, and I will keep an eye on the Q&A session to see if there are any other questions from that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think you can use a lot of those technologies, by the way, to generate ideas and hypotheses. Generative AI is a great tool. You can use ChatGPT, you can use Microsoft Copilot, you can use Gemini, you can use so many, but also you can point those tools to specific content sets like scientific research that gives you some initial validation from some of the best literature out there. So you start to come up with ideas that are a little bit more refined. And you do that as an assistant, right? So that in the team, you got your team, you got your customers, you got your AI assistant as well. This is super important. It's engaging, it's a lot of fun, and it's bloody insightful. Of course, there's hallucinations, all kinds of limitations, and it will always be just one ingredient. But I challenge everyone to really start embracing those technology, in particular during the creation of idea and validation. The other thing is, of course, the market is going, in particular in the in my space, I guess, is going into insights, advanced insights, predictive, prescriptive analytics. So the opportunities for, now that the kind of science is being democratized, you don't need to be an expert coder. You know, how can you assemble a team that has got some data scientists and some brilliant minds and is able to tailor some of those AI applications and point them towards specific use cases and workflows where they can be really disruptive, right? It's probably too late to start developing the next big technology in terms of deep tech, but the point is how you use that and deploy that towards helpful use cases. And I think particularly in Africa, the ability to connect underserved populations is huge. And even just with logistics, think about what drones are doing, shipping important medicines in remote villages. You know, there's a lot of technology that enables new business models. Think about telemedicine, think about online education that is opening up entirely new markets, and it's leapfrogging, which is a term that I'm sure you guys are super familiar with more than I am, right? The opportunity for markets like yours to leapfrog the old infrastructure of a lot of the rest of the world through digital means. So it would be a super long conversation, but this would be my initial reaction to it.
Thank you very much. Well, we have another question here in the box from Anonymous. So now this reads, for someone who is a total beginner in this field, how will the person be able to generate ideas for a specific service?
Yeah, so if I go back to maybe here, you know, so service products, this apply to both, and particularly in the idea generation, there isn't a lot of difference, right? So services are definitely it's a solution. There's various techniques, right? I mentioned about some of those, right? The brainstorming, the sketching, is the post-its, is it's also, as you do your market analysis, you do interviews, you do open-ended, unstructured interviews, and you ask about what are some of the major pain points. You know, is the customer happy? Does he find that the solutions out there are on the happy line or not so much, right? I don't have the time to go, maybe we'll do another section and a deep dive on some of those tools. But as you do your, I'd say unstructured, open-ended interviews at the beginning are important, focus groups, right? But I think one-to-one interviews are more simple to organize. Once you have a bit of a better idea and some themes that kind of come back, of course, you got to be aiming to some kind of problem, to some kind of market group, right? You can't be too broad. It's the framing of the problem. Then you can do maybe a survey, right? Semi-structured that gives you some quantitative results. So you start to put some numbers around it, right? That, you know, help you understand whether you're on the right path or not. And my general advice is, as I said before, like, it's try to be creative and analytical. Being creative is great, but try to follow some logic, because the logic will help you to say, okay, I can disprove or prove this hypothesis right by doing, you know, this or that. Like Amazon does that a lot, right? When they launched Prime, they did a lot of these things, you know, understanding about the customer pain points. The waiting time was too long for e-commerce. That was hindering their business a lot. They found that out through relentless customer engagement. So customers are always at the core of all this.
Very great. I hope that answered the question. Well, we have a couple of more questions, and I find the next one particularly very interesting because it's more of a follow-up on the AI, the emerging disruptive technology, you know. And one of the participants is asking, it's just a follow-up question: must all innovators follow the AI route, especially with the inevitable rise of AI in business? So it's an interesting one. And what do you think?
Sorry, especially, I missed the last bit, especially with
the inevitable rise of AI in business, you know. So the you know, it's just going up, no, it's there's no stop. So how would this must all innovators follow this route? And it's interesting.
Yeah, is anyone going after AI? Is anyone going after the same blue ocean? Now, this is such an emerging technology. By the way, AI is so many different things, right? Of course, so it's gonna become like the internet. It's gonna become your new environment in a way. So it's more about how you embed it. There's no AI magic. It's really all the way down to your problem you're trying to solve. AI just makes you a lot better at doing that. And I think there's two ways to innovate. First of all, trying to find the AI technologies that are more well suited. So for example, right now, the next generation of AI is causal AI. It's those machine learning models, and actually it's not even just machine learning, it's the ability to not only find correlations between data, but also the cause and effect. So try to kind of understand how that can help decision making, for example. Generative AI has got limitations, so it can't do certain things, right? It can't really predict very well, but it's great at generating content and digesting a large amount of data and tell you what's probably going to happen next based on the past. But they're not the most sophisticated in telling you exactly the recommendation, what you should be doing and what the impact of that would be, and quantify that impact, right? So a way to be innovative is to be at the cutting edge of what's next in the technology revolution. Right? I'm just conscious of time. We don't have a lot of time to go into as much depth. AI is a whole topic in itself. But those are great questions, and I'm very happy to maybe find more time or take it offline. Happy to reconnect with anyone and go deeper into any of those topics and hear from you, because you guys know a lot. There's a few more slides, so I'll leave it to you, Saber, as to whether I should be going, at least complete the various steps of product.
Well, yeah, maybe we can allow you another 5 minutes, and then we leave the last 5 minutes to entertain. I see the questions are pouring in right now, and I hope we have the time to get into them, but we'll give you maybe another 5 minutes to wrap up so that we can spend a little bit more time to address those questions, if that's fine.
I'm happy to stay on for a little longer, although I know folks will need to go.
Absolutely. That's
prototype, fine. I think you guys know what it is, right? Don't wait to have a perfect product, get it out there, get feedback, test early. And a good example here is Dropbox, right? Dropbox, which is a leading provider of file storage services, they didn't spend really years coding anything. They started off with a video, and that would kind of show what the solution would do. And overnight, I think 80,000 people signed up. And they didn't even have a product yet, but what they had was validation, right? They knew that people wanted it, and therefore they built it. I think that's a great example, right, of the magic of prototyping. Minimum viable product it's the first functional version of a product, and it's designed to test the core idea. And some others call it the minimum lovable product. So the idea is to test the kind of functionality, the viability, but also the customer satisfaction. My question to you is, what's the simplest version of your idea that you can test next week? Right? What's the next prototype that you can build very quickly? Challenge yourself. And then how you balance speed and meaningful MVP, right? Agile and lean methodologies are super important in building any of these. We'll touch upon it a bit later in the next couple of slides. Of course, prototypes will change depending on the industry you're in. So, it could be a clickable screen. It could be an actual mock-up of the physical print of some sort. Some experience that reflects your product. It could be a digital simulation, a digital twin. It really varies. Launch and scale. All right. So I think at this point, if you made it this way, this far, well done. It means you got something there. You won over the early adopters, and now it's time to convince the pragmatists, right? The majority, which tend to be, the early adopters. They love risk. If you think about Tesla, right? Tesla started off with the highly conscious, environmentally conscious, innovative driven customer segment. They didn't even care that the charging network for cars wasn't fully built out yet, because they were all excited about innovating. And they got them, they won them over, and then they expanded to the masses really nowadays, right? So build trust in a niche and expand from there. That's a good strategy, but it's also, it implies a bit of a different strategy, because The early adopters are not. They have different decision making and different behaviors. So niche to scale, it's a good tool and framework here. And then keep iterating. So really, agile and lean are the major methodologies out there. They started off in Silicon Valley. There's various authors that wrote about it. Eric Ries is one of those, is the most famous maybe. And agile is about iteration and flexibility. Lean is about streamlining. We're very, very focused on the core bit. So one is more about process, the other is more about the scoping of what you do. Linear approaches that kind of do what I've described in a very linear fashion. Sometimes they offer structure. I found actually that my leadership found it better, but actually I had to push back because they lack the flexibility that is required. They're too risky. You move too slow, you build too much effort into it before realizing that maybe you got to pivot. And so that's really important to bear in mind. I am a fan of the agile model in particular. When I was leading my product projects, I would be hiring a product advisory as a group, like 20 people. I would meet at least on a monthly basis with them. You have small teams that are very agile, cross-functional, the engineers, the product specialists, the experts in the market. It's about really also organizing your work in bite sizes, keep it incremental, so that you can quickly pivot if needed, and it's just more manageable, and you are more efficient, right? You track progress and you pivot if you need. And I think we're towards the end of it, really. The power of pivot, we already talked about it. Most startups don't fail because of bad ideas, right? A lot of the ideas are good. They fail because they're too slow to pivot. And the reason for that is they kind of invested already too much time and money in it. So that's why it's important to be agile, but also drop it. If you have to drop it, drop it. And don't be afraid of kind of Groupon. Maybe an example is better here to explain. Like Groupon, I don't know if you know them and how popular that is in Africa, but they kind of started off as a fundraising platform for activism, for collective actions. And they realized it wasn't working, but those communities would work really well for deals. And it transformed itself, shifted to being a daily deals site. And it's a multi-billion one. It's a great example of a completely massive shift in their focus. Obsess about your customers. They are the North Star. Follow customers, fall in love with them, know your products. And then these are the conclusions. Innovation is a journey, right? We talked about defining the right problems, generating many ideas, iterate, and then put your customers at the center of everything that you do. So yeah, now it's over to you for questions, and keen to hear how you're ready to bring your new ideas to life, but also you want to know more and bring your experience. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Francesco. Now, that was very informative, and some of the colleagues are attesting to this. I have more of a comment here. I have a marketplace application. I want to prototype and develop product category to make a subscription available to the vendors. So I am sure that Ishmael, this information, the process, the 7 steps that have been discussed here will guide you in doing so. The application is still at the programming stage, so he says that's good. Another Aston as well, I've mentioned here, I've created digital products as a developer, but I do not know how to sell their work. Wow. What do you say, Francesco?
I don't know how
to sell their work, so to sell them, does not know how to, the entrepreneur does not know how to sell them, or even how to, in this case, price them, does not know the worth of them. So I don't know if you have any any comment on this.
it's it really depends on what can I ask what the digital product is at all? Can we have a little bit more context?
Exactly. So Ashton, I will allow you to write that in the Q&A so long while I move on to the next. This is coming from an anonymous. How would you validate an idea, especially when there is limited data to base on it, and or if the intended clients cannot express themselves quite well? Okay.
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts. First of all, how do you validate an idea, right? So you want to look at its viability, its usability, and affordability, and then a kind of affordability for the customer and for yourself, right? So those are some of the key things that you want to think about when you validate, right? You can come up with other criteria as well, but you got to cover all of the main points. The other thing is for customers, you got to ask the right questions. Sometimes what I found in my experience is you get them to validate specific things, like get input on the actual product, but it's hard for them to do it because they don't quite, it's hard to envision it. So there's ways to help them envision things by everything that we discussed. Maybe it's a brochure. It depends on also how they are. Maybe they're more visual, they like to read. You explain the story, what you're trying to solve for, or you build mock-ups, right? Or you try to understand their user journey. So there's ways to make it a little more simple for them. But I would say my recommendation would be try to focus on really what is it that they need. And then a translation of what that might look like in terms of the solution. Maybe the first step is with you. That's where your genius is. Of course, you got to validate also how that works and how that looks like. Like the customers need to be in the loop every time. But maybe some of you have heard the point of, Steve Jobs and Ford didn't quite ask their customers, right? Because they would have asked for a faster computer or faster horses. Yeah, I mean, I get the point. I think the point is really to understand the pain points and the needs of the customer. Focus on that. You're finding it difficult to get them to go into the details of what the answer looks like.
That's great. Well, I have a question here from Caroline. Two questions actually, so I'll try to merge the two. Right. The first is that at what point can Caroline be able to determine the value proposition of the product? So I guess through that 7 steps that you have shared with us, Francesco, Caroline is asking, at what point can I determine the value proposition of my product?
Yeah, so it is, what is that? Early on. So craft your story. Here's where your value proposition and even the product strategy starts. Of course, you're going to refine it, but the idea is you have clarity on what it is that you're trying to achieve with your product. The focus isn't the product ever. The focus is the problem you're trying to solve for and the customers that have that problem. So here is where I would start to build that out, right? So the unique value proposition, the value statement, it's basically what is the issue, why we need to do something about the issue, and what if we manage to do this and that, and well, I think I got an idea. This could be the solution, right? That's where I would start doing it. And then also you can validate, because if the story doesn't sell, which is the same reason of why I said the press release can be helpful, right? Press release is a simple way to talk about the value proposition, if you will, but in a way that is, wow, it needs to be out there on my website, on newspapers, on news aggregators. If it doesn't stand that test, then you probably got to go back to the drawing board and adjust. Maybe it's a pivot, maybe it's an adjustment, on ditching it. Does that help? Does that answer the question?
Great. Well, another one here is focusing on what do you think about idea of what do you think about the idea of maturing one's idea or concept before implementing it? And this is because at the risk that someone else might develop it better. So at what point, at what point should you put out your innovation out there, to be sure that there is no copycats, there's no someone that copies the idea and does it better. No, my understanding of innovation, that is how innovation works, but how do we draw that line? No, that this is my idea, I need to master the idea to be able to put it out there. It's not that I'm entrepreneurs don't want their ideas to be developed further, but at the same time you want to own that that intellectual property of that idea. So
yeah, absolutely. And I used to work for a company that would sell patent intelligence and workflow software for IP management for intellectual property. So I'm very familiar with that topic. Trade secrets and everything. You got to be careful, of course, in particular when you believe you're onto real innovation, which could be patented. I would be a little less worried with just ideas, which would be an innovation in terms of the process or the business model, because really what's going to set you apart is that you get it right. It's not the idea in itself. The idea is 10%, 90% is execution. It's relentless execution, smart execution. And it's more important that you talk to people, you get your idea out there, than keeping it for yourself, because you won't be able to really trigger thoughts, ideas, or to de-risk the development as well as you should. I had my own experiences being, so I mentioned I launched this digital health intelligence platform. I was working at the time in this, Clarivate was a PE-owned, private equity-owned business. The president wanted to show to the board and investors that we were innovating. And then he wanted me to get out there as quickly as possible, put the news out there. And I had to manage that balance because I didn't think we were ready enough. We weren't onto an MVP as yet. And then at the same time balance the stakeholders from the top down who were looking for something, right? Some excitement, something new. There's always that tension, in particular when investors are involved, right? And you got to be able to manage that. I'm not sure I did it perfectly, and actually I had to go back and add at least one more piece before the product was really able to fly. Was missing a piece. So it's important to get that right. Of course, be mindful, but I think it's important to get it right rather than be super fast. Either because you want to be too agile or you're too worried about competition and losing the novelty factor. And also keep watching. If someone is starting to do anything in that space, keep watching. Maybe you learn something. Sometimes being the fast follower is better to be than being the very early first innovator.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you, and I think you've already anticipated the next question that I was bringing up to you, because Eric that is also joining us wants to type into your experience, in terms of semi-finished product. Eric wants to know: is it better to start off with a semi-finished product before venturing into full production? Why? Eric is thinking of minimizing risk and more time to study the market to be sure that the product offering is indeed what the market needs. So I think you've touched upon this already, but if you have any more suggestion.
The jury's out still, and if you read some of the gurus in Silicon Valley, the emphasis is on being as fast as you possibly can. You read some of the research out there, and you got to be wise and balanced, because if you're trying to put something out there too quickly, in particular as an MVP, then the validation you're going to get is not going to be meaningful, right? You got to have the core. You got to get the core right, because otherwise the feedback you get is a little less meaningful, and also you lose the opportunity to excite people. You're not going to get as many opportunities. Yes, iteration is important. Internally, there should be no blame. Reiterate as many times as you can. But reality is when you talk to customers and the market, it's not that you get endless shot at it. It is important to have a product advisory user group of people that sign a charter and they are understanding of the process they're going through, right? But, you know, in particular, if you start to really put it out there, maybe you start charging for it to test appetite for paying a price. We haven't gone back to the pricing question earlier. Then you got to have enough in it to make it exciting, right? So the jury's out. I'd be really curious to hear about what folks say. You know, maybe the other time we open up the microphone and have a proper.
All right. Well, Ashton, the colleague that created the digital platform, but does not know how to sell it, has giving us a bit insight. It's saying that the product is a betting site. I'm unable to fund it myself. Remember that this is at a programming stage. No, I would love to sell it, but I don't know to whom and how much. Well, I'm not an expert in product innovation, but I know a very little bit about, the market innovation, and please correct me, Francesco, if I'm wrong. No, I think this is more related to understanding the market. First looking at the competitions that are already existing. What are you offering? What innovation are you offering on top of what is existing? And based on your market research, you should understand what is the shortfall and what is the gap that you are trying to bridge. And I think, this is just my opinion, but I leave it to the expert to share the thoughts on that.
Yeah, it sounds, but the sound of it feels that the process that is being followed is a bit upside down. I'm guessing, and I apologize if that's not right. There's probably some good idea there, the technology, some good programming, and maybe now thinking, just try not to force your technology onto the market. Really start from the market backward, right? And see what you have can really fit into it, but don't force fit things. And I think covering the bases is important, right? You want to look at the market, the customer segments you're targeting, as you said, right? Say you're rightly so, right? The customers, right? Sorry, the competitors. So it's the market, is the customers, is the competitors, and it's your product. The answer is at the crossroad of these pieces. Try to focus on the niche where you think there is a real need for your solution. Get that right. Think about what the commercial value proposition would be. What are the pain points that you are targeting? What are the customer needs, and how does your betting solution, is it betting on new sport? Is it a different user experience? What is your unique value proposition? Is it the user interface? Is it the user experience? Is it the price point? What are you solving for? Right? And then really have your customer segment in mind. Describe it. How do they behave? What do they do? What's their journey? In their journey, how would I, how is my product position? And then when it comes to the pricing, there's ways to test the willingness to spend, right? So you understand how much value does the customer attach to this product, right? The value question is important. Even before you attach a dollar value, does it solve a huge issue, or it's really, how different is what you're doing, in their opinion? How much value does it carry? And that's already a bit of an indication of how much they may be willing to spend. Of course, it depends if they're students, if they're adults, and what kind of budget for that betting, tool, website. I don't know what it is exactly, app, I guess. And then there's ways to, through surveys, when you are a little bit more advanced, to try to put a bit of a dollar value, right? You do through surveys. You said, would you be willing to spend this or this or this, or you say, what is the maximum that you would be willing to pay? And then you look at some of the market benchmarks. So someone asked, how do I do when there's a little market data? I'm spoiled. I work in regions where there's a lot of market data. In Africa, maybe there's a little less reports out there, syndicated reports or databases. It's even more important that you get your primary research right and you talk extensively to people in the industry and then again, your target customers.
Thank you very much. And Ashton, I will highly recommend to you to join our MBA program, because this is exactly what we do. We put the idea onto the business model plus, and we debunk every aspect of the business from the beginning to the end to get it ready to run. So I would invite you to look into our website wherever you are joining us from. I am sure that our program is running in that country. So please have a look on our website and find the relevant information. Now, I know that we are running out of time. We have some few questions here, so I will just summarize these questions, the last questions for you, so that we can close off here now. We have a question coming from a colleague here. We are a team currently looking to prototype our product. Can you help? We have our MVP. And then the last question will be, which I love to close on this one. If innovation is a journey, how do you determine the final destination? I think that is a nice one to close with. So over to you, Francesco. Thank you.
Oh, nice, yeah. So for the first question, I didn't quite get it. There are the prototyping or MVP stage.
Well, they are currently looking to prototype the product, and they already have the MVP. They have MVP already.
Okay. In the process, but again, it's iterative, so it's always a feedback loop. So you actually prototype first, and then you build your MVP. The MVP is, closer to what the finished product would look like. So, but there's ways to also, you got your MVP, you got, hopefully you got it out there. It's being utilized, right? So the good thing the advantage of the MVP over the prototype is that you can get usage data usually, right? Because the customers are getting a real experience of it. The prototype is, of course, a lot more limited, right? It's more the feel, it's actually more the idea of it than the feel for it. So if you are at the MVP stage, gather a lot of data points on the usage, how the customers interacted with the product or the service. I don't know what the product is, right? But if it is a platform, how much time are they spending? What's their journey in the product? What features are being utilized more or less, right? It's the beauty of being now not having interviews, not having conversations, but actually get real world, real time feedback, observe their behavior, even more so than what they tell you. What they tell you is important, but how they behave and interact is even more important, is even more telling. And then it's fine to go back to a prototype. So you may decide that actually your MVP isn't quite minimal viable as yet, right? So you want to go back and then tweak your some functions and you want to prototype them. So it's a feedback loop. In terms of destination, what's the destination? It's funny because in the last slide I wanted to say it's a journey, it's not a destination. So and then I thought it was too cheesy to say that, but it is really true. But in the end, the destination is I think it's innovation that matters, that makes customers happier, more satisfied, and then resolve some of their problems. I think that is really the destination. So it doesn't end definitely with a product launch. And there's a lot of startups that actually end up in no man's land. They have a decent launch. I think they call it the hurdle, the chasm. I don't know the word of it, but it's, as I said, it's that inflection point where you got the early adopters right, but then you gotta be able to scale, and you gotta change the game, right? You got that niche right, but then you gotta go back and then appeal probably to a larger segment, right? If you want to scale, unless you want to keep it very niche, depends on what your strategy is, right? And what the product and the solution you're trying to solve is. So being super niche could be a strategy, but if you're looking to scale, the other thing is you may want to start with a pilot. There's way to de-risk, right? You do a pilot, fewer customers, whether it's B2B or B2C, you have fewer salespeople, really well trained to sell, and then maybe the destination is, it's a full launch, right? And then you keep iterating. The iteration will never end.
Well, thank you very much for this informative session. Colleagues, thank you all for joining. I know that there are more questions, but I think maybe we might need another session to continue this this conversation. I don't know. So in a moment, you will see a poll on the screen that is asking you, we would like to hear from you if you like a follow-up webinar with Francesco to go in depth into those steps. We can take maybe because what is being identified here, as some of the colleagues have mentioned, at what point do you prototype, at what point do you create an MVP. Maybe we can get into those specific those processes. So we would like to know from you. The poll is on your screen right now. We'd like to know from you if you would like another free session to go maybe more time in depth. And at that point, I think we can just, if Francesco agrees, we can make it just a Q&A session, 5 minutes of you talking and the rest of the hour for Q&As will be great. But I would like to thank you very much. Oh, wow. So here we are, Francesco. It seems like we are going to prepare another session. So there will be a follow-up email to all participants that attended today with further information. But I would like to take this moment to thank you very much, Francesco, for making the time to join us this evening. To join also our entrepreneurs that have connected with us. We are very grateful for the information that you have shared, the information that you have shared with us, and we are very thankful for this information, and we hope that we will arrange again in the coming weeks to spend more time with you, to go in detail, to ask you more questions about how many of our entrepreneurs can start this journey of product innovation in their respective businesses. So I thank you very much again on behalf of the foundation and on behalf of everyone in attendance. I thank you very much for sharing this information with us. And if there is nothing, then I would like to thank you all for joining again, and wish you a very good evening and good morning wherever you are connecting from. I know some people are connecting from the US, Canada, so I am grateful for your time this afternoon, this evening, this morning. From us, E4Impact Foundation, until we see you in the next session, I thank you all and good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.